Hello, I'm Presley, and today I will be reviewing episode 10 of the Bleach TYBW Blood Walk. Now, this episode covers chapters 522, the first few pages of 523 that were not covered last episode, and 525 through 527. So technically a little over 4 chapters. Now, the episode starts with Kenpachi realizing that he's continued to lose consciousness throughout the course of this battle. Commenting on how it feels somewhat nostalgic for him, and how it reminds him of that day that he and Unohana originally fought. Then the opening theme plays, and then after that we start the flashback for Unohana and Kenpachi's original fight. One interesting thing to note here is that it does specify that the fight was several hundred years ago, and it's a bit of a weird detail to see, especially knowing that Unohana appeared to have had the scar that Kenpachi gives her in this fight 1,000 years ago. In the scenes of the original Gotei 13 that we had added in the anime. So I feel like this has to be some type of oversight to some degree. Because if I'm remembering correctly, I don't think the manga specified how long ago their fight originally was. And in this flashback, we can see a member of the 11th Division at that time running up to the captain at the time, Unohana. You have him mentioning how she's been looking for someone, an equal to fight. And then after him talking for a bit, we have him stating that the mountain of corpses that aren't too far away from where they're standing truly shows how dissatisfied she is that she has yet to find a worthy opponent. To which Unohana turns around and asks how long that has been there, because she isn't the one that caused that. And then at the top of the mountain of corpses, we of course see a young Kenpachi Zaraki. And we cut back and forth between seeing this flashback and the actual current fight with her and Kenpachi, a few times during the battle. In the flashback, we can see him jump down from the pile of corpses, stabbing into her chest, which would leave her with the scar she now has. We see them both clashing blades in the flashback and in the current battle, cutting back and forth. And as they do this, we have Unohana thinking to herself, to where we learn that Kenpachi has been unknowingly restraining his power ever since the original fight between the two of them. And that he actually started doing it back during that fight, after he realized that he was more powerful than her, and realized he did not want the fight to end. He did not want to kill the only person that had ever even slightly rivaled him in terms of strength. So he unconsciously started restraining his power, because, as she put it, she was weaker than him. And he wanted battles to be exciting, he wanted them to be entertaining, to be fun, and they couldn't be if he was just defaultly always stronger than whoever he was going up against, if there was no real stakes in the battle. And that as more fights come along where he's being pushed to the brink of death, he keeps removing these filters that he's put on himself and his power without realizing it. Which is why Unohana has been killing and reviving Kenpachi all throughout this battle, to get him back to how he was in the original fight they had, to that level of strength. Because that is what she wants. She wants him to be truly worthy of the title Kenpachi as he was back then. We see Kenpachi finally land a decent slash on her, only to then see her heal it. And then we see her do it. We see Unohana unleash her Bankai, Minazuki. Now honestly, this scene is just incredible. I love the way she runs her hand across the blade, coating it in blood. That is so cool. Now, we still don't get a clear-cut explanation about what exactly Minazuki does. We did not get an explanation in the manga either. But I have a few ideas myself what Minazuki might actually be doing in this scene. And I'm not going to go into them here because, that would cause this video to drag on a bit too long. So I'm just going to save those, and I might do a video on its own going over what I technically think Minazuki's ability is. Now, of course, one of the added things we see when she unleashes Minazuki is we see her wounds healing, which is something that was not originally in the manga and is a new added detail, which is very interesting. We have her and Kenpachi clash blades a few more times throughout the fight, and a few more seconds into the fight, we actually see, like, their skin just corroding away, melting off. We see half of Kenpachi's skull exposed, we see his arm just bones, we see Unohana just bones as well. It's insane and so cool looking. Then of course we see Kenpachi and Unohana and they're both no longer, just bones. And now I'm of course going to go in detail about what I think this means when I explain what I think Minazuki does, of course. And finally we see Kenpachi, after a bit more back and forth, deliver the final killing stab to Unohana. We see Kenpachi rush over to catch her as she's falling. Kenpachi is clearly upset because he does not want her to die. And we have Unohana thinking to herself in her dying moments about how now she's finally able to leave the title of Kenpachi to the only person that she thinks is worthy of the title of Kenpachi. She then dies. Kenpachi then hears a voice calling out to him. It's his Zanpakuto's voice. He can finally hear his Zanpakuto after all this time. We see Ichigo and Renji arriving to Oetsu's area, and then of course we have Oetsu himself, making his grand entrance into the area, making sure to state that he is in fact the #1 Zanpakuto creator. He welcomes them in, they go into the entrance hall, they're greeted by a bunch of women, which confuses Ichigo and Renji. We have a bit of comedic going back and forth between Oetsu, Renji, and Ichigo. A young girl named Mera walks in, drags all of them out of, the really grandiose entrance hall, back to where the real area is, which is actually just a shack covering a giant hole in the ground. And, Renji and Ichigo are knocked down there. And, Oetsu tells them that the women that they met on their way there were actually just Zanpakutos. Oetsu then begins to explain what the Asa Auchi are, and that they're the Zanpakutos that he created. They're the Zanpakutos that all look the same. They're basically blank slate Zanpakutos for Soul Reapers to pour their spiritual energy into and make their own Zanpakuto over time. And basically, they're told that they're gonna have to fight all the ones down there, Then the ending plays, and we cut back to an end credit scene that features Oetsu walking back up and stating that, 71 hours and 48 minutes have passed, and Renji has in fact passed. Renji's done it. He'll fix Renji's Zanpakuto for him. However, Ichigo failed. And, of course, Ichigo, he protests to this, he wants to redo it again, but Oetsu instead sends him back home. He states that the only way Ichigo's going to be able to reobtain what he's lost is by revisiting his roots and rediscovering who he is. And the episode ends there. Now on to my overall thoughts about the episode. I thought it was great. The way they animated Minazuki was amazing. I thought it looked great. Now, once again, this episode does indeed have a never-ending poem, like always, and this poem is from the beginning of Volume 60, from Masaki's perspective. Ichigo's mother. Well, I'm going to end this review here. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a fantastic week, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.